New Mexico students will soon be instructed to close their textbooks and begin another year of PARCC testing to measure academic achievement, unless parents opt their children out of the test. Now, we've heard many times in the past, including here on New Mexico in Focus, that teachers are deeply alarmed about how student test results may be used to assess their teacher evaluations and licensure. That dispute has now turned into a court battle. In December, a judge issued a temporary injunction in a legal case to prevent the use of PARCC results in teacher evaluations until the lawsuit is resolved. Our correspondent, Stan Wilson, sat down recently with the head of a teachers union and a middle school teacher to discuss why everyone has a stake in the future of PARCC testing and how changes in the federal No Child Left Behind Act might change testing.
I am joined by Jefferson Middle School teacher Elena Creamer-Martinez and Ellen Bernstein, president of the Albuquerque Teachers Federation. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Ellen, let me start with you. Are you pleased, first of all, with the new No Child Left Behind bill that President Obama signed into law, and I might emphasize with bipartisan support?
I think everybody's pleased. It was time to move past No Child Left Behind. That bill had set up this whole high-stakes testing, blame and shame context that everybody's working in and learning in our public schools. And it also kind of usurped states' rights when it came to education policy. And what the new education law does is it moves all of that back into the states. It says the federal government doesn't have any business micromanaging our education policies. It takes away all of the high-stakes testing, carrot and stick mentality, and then says you got to have tests, but you don't have to have high stakes attached to it, and it leaves it up to the states again.
What does it mean for New Mexico in terms of improving the standardized testing?
Well, I'm not sure that the federal law will do anything to improve our test scores, but what it does is it gives us permission to think more deeply and carefully about how we want to use those test scores and whether or not we want to create, you know, high stakes and this whole idea that you have one chance, and if you don't take that chance and do well, you're going to fail as a community, as a school, as a teacher or a student, and it lets us rethink that.
And Elena, how does this translate into a passion for teaching and improving the students' achievement in your classrooms?
Well, I've always been humbled by the gift that education gives students and the power that it gives them to become what they want to be and do what they'd like to do in the world. And so to be able to work in a field in which I can help students achieve that, it's wonderful to be a part of that.
Ellen, in terms of the test results here, according to the latest statewide assessment of elementary and middle school students, only 1 in 4 New Mexico students in grades 3 through 8 demonstrated competency based on the PARCC testing, which is Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. What does that tell you?
Well, it's hard to know exactly what the PARCC scores mean, and there are several reasons for that. It's the first year that anybody in the nation has used these new tests. There are 2 different tests, PARCC and Smarter Balance. These new tests are computerized. So one of the questions we have as educators is whether or not we're measuring a student's ability to use a computer well, you know, and that has a lot to do with their family situation, whether they have computers at home, or are we testing their ability to read, understand what they're reading, and apply that understanding in some way. Teachers are not real fond of this new test in terms of keeping its promise. And the promise that PARCC made and Smarter Balance was to have a test not just that looked at what a kid knows, but what they're able to do with what they know. And what teachers are saying is, you know, this was just a computerized multiple choice test. It didn't take testing to the next level.
Well, how do you respond to the Secretary of Education, Hanna Skadera's statement that the results will be used in teacher and school evaluations, but initially carry less weight than scores from previous statewide examinations, which, you know, in essence, the state is still performing at the bottom?
Well, we understand, but I think that it should carry less weight. In fact, there are many states in the nation that put a moratorium on any consequences related to the new test, because it's like comparing apples and oranges. We had one test that did this, and here are these results, and we have a completely different test, and we don't know what to compare those results to. So I think she should go a step further and actually declare a moratorium on consequences, because we don't know yet what the PARCC exam means and what the results mean, and we're comparing it to a completely different test.
But is the union supportive or opposed to PARCC testing in general?
You know, there's not a teacher that's opposed to testing. Testing was born in public schools. We've always given tests. It's what we do with the results of that test. And what we believe as teachers is that high stakes consequences on one moment in time or one test is not the right way to educate students. It's not the right way to support teachers to do their best in the classrooms.
Elena, why do you suppose that some students are struggling and others are performing better, given the dynamics of your school and the makeup of your class?
Well, one of the interesting things about Jefferson Middle School is that we are in a district where we have kids who come from the extremes of the socioeconomic spectrum. So we have students who are from very wealthy families. We have students who are from families that may be struggling and in poverty. And so it's really interesting to see the different challenges that students face, because each student's situation is incredibly unique. And so as teachers, we have to identify what are the struggles that these students have and how can we support them.
Well, in terms of students who come from impoverished backgrounds, some students are excelling. And so are you finding a common denominator in that versus those who fall behind?
I think that it's really dangerous to say that, you know, like, well, these students are both from this situation and this student is succeeding and this student isn't. And why is that? Because students that come from impoverished backgrounds have very different situations. Each family is in their own situation and they're in their own struggle. And so it is a little difficult to say, oh, well, this student did this while this student didn't. But to speak to that, one thing that we can do in schools that really helps students is mentorship. There's been research that shows a positive correlation between mentorship and student achievement. And so providing students with that mentorship is a great way to help students succeed.
And so is there anything specific in your class or your school that is addressing that issue and helping children come from, or students from, these adverse backgrounds?
We do have a mentorship program at Jefferson. The AVID program, our two AVID coordinators who are fabulous, have set up this mentorship program. And not to say that students in AVID, not every student is from an impoverished background, but there are students who may be struggling. And so what we've done is we've provided them with a mentor in the school. We've signed them up with a teacher who they can meet with for lunch. They can provide additional support for academics or maybe for social struggles. And so that's been a way that we've provided that mentorship at Jefferson.
Let me ask you, Ellen, how do you respond to Secretary Skandera, who recently stated that educators must guard against the view that poverty and race and family circumstances dictate a child's future?
Well, I don't think there's a teacher anywhere who believes that it dictates. I think what teachers are saying everywhere is that you can't ignore the impact of poverty. So let's address it. Let's make sure we're not just talking about an achievement gap, but an opportunity gap. The opportunity to have early childhood care and prenatal care, even, you know, when the mother is carrying the child. We want to make sure that as teachers, our students have the social structures that support them, community schools that provide before and after school activities that help send backpacks of food home, ways in which we can address what the families are not able to provide will really help these kids do better in school. There's a correlation, and all the research proves it. We're not making excuses. We're just saying, as teachers, let's, as a community, support our families, help them make a livable wage so that they can support our kids so that we can teach well.
And so, Elena, how would you apply that in the context of your classroom and seeing kids thrive throughout the middle school and high school eras so that they're prepared and will do well once they reach the college level?
Well, it's important as educators to realize that students, they are facing these struggles, and we need to provide a supportive environment. So, you know, when a student might be a little bit late because they couldn't quite get to school on time or the bus wasn't there, maybe if a student doesn't have a pencil, instead of providing these punitive consequences, saying, you know, hey, I'm glad you're here. Hey, here's an extra pencil that I have, and making them feel that they're safe in that environment and that it is a welcoming environment in which that they can thrive and succeed. It's things like that.
Now, Ellen, in terms of moving forward with PARCC testing and how it will evolve, the union has filed numerous lawsuits against the education department. I wanted to ask you why you feel that it's necessary to go to the courts instead of finding a compromise that satisfies both the union and the state's position.
Well, of course, we always work for a compromise. In fact, there was a very good teacher evaluation bill that got passed but yet vetoed by the governor. So we believe, as teachers, we want to be evaluated, and we are accountable, and we embrace our accountability. I don't think there are very many professions that go to work every single day, and regardless of what goes on, they rise to that challenge, and they make sure that whether they're teaching 25 kids or 160 kids, that they're doing the best that they can. But what our lawsuit is based on is the idea that the PARCC test and all standardized tests are non-instructionally sensitive, and you can't judge a teacher's ability to teach based on their student test scores. In fact, there is such a huge error rate in terms of how these high-stakes testing related to teacher evaluation that the judge imposed a temporary injunction on using test scores to have consequences on teachers and their career.
So in moving forward, what do you say to students and parents who feel that the bitter politics of reaching some kind of compromise in the state are alienating students and teachers from feeling involved? And they just want answers and solutions.
Well, I think that's the question that we have for all layers of government. Are we going to look at the real research, listen to the experts who are the practitioners in the classroom, understand what good policy is, and then figure out how to work on that together? Or are we going to just take stances and evidence be damned, we're just going to stick with our talking points? And that's unfortunately a lot of what's happening in politics right now, and it has negative impacts on not just the people in the schools doing the teaching, but people who want to become teachers are turned off by that.
And Elena, with the final minute left here, what would you consider your level of morale in this climate, and what are you doing to try and help these students and the parents to have a better structure in place and to thrive?
Well, it's kind of two different questions there. In terms of providing structure for the students, I mean, Jefferson is trying to, we're a community school, and so we're providing after-school homework club until 5 o'clock. We provide classes for parents on different things that they might need in the community. So we do have that wraparound thing kind of going on. In terms of the morale, it's been kind of a hard year. It's been an interesting year.
And so what is it going to take to turn around morale, given that it's been tough?
Well, I feel like as educators, we are unfailingly positive as much as we possibly can be. And so I feel like keeping the focus on our students, keeping the focus on how we can support the kids in our classrooms every day is a good way for us to do that.
Elena, Ellen, thank you. Hope you'll come back and join us.
Thanks.
Thank you.